Welcome back, listener. This is Suyana, bringing you Chapter 23 from the All-Inclusive Approach, the Art of Divine Remembrance. Chapter 23 is entitled Trust. And I'm feeling very trusting today. I just woke up my son and told him that he has a snow day today, no school. And he was extremely enthusiastic about that news. He was pumping his arms in the air, kicking his legs, making this silent screaming face and laughing, yeah! So it just reminded me of how simple life can be when we are just facing the things right in front of us, and how easy it is to trust when we're not trying to figure out what's going to come 10, 15, 20 steps down the road. So here we go, Chapter 23. Trust, by the way, is one of my major life themes. Self-trust, trust of the divine plan, trust of others. So I'm really excited to share this chapter with you. Trust is a critical component of embodying divinity to its fullest. Conscious transformation is available to all of us, but those who are ready to focus their intentions, energy, passion, and resources on reconnecting with the truth that there is nothing wrong with them may find themselves at an advantage. Taking a transformative step toward totally and completely loving and accepting yourself exactly as you are in this precise moment requires trust. However, trust is a loaded concept. Many of us have been betrayed, disappointed, rejected, misled, abandoned, judged, or lied to at some point along our journey. How can we trust without fearing that it may turn out to be a foolish choice? We often find value in pain, hurt, suffering, and trauma. The saying, "that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger," is often used to assure us that our pain is not in vain. And it isn't. There is purpose in it. That purpose is to fully embrace the experience and realize the immensity of your own resilience. We achieve this by opening ourselves to vulnerability. This may look like apologizing to a child when we've been insensitive, instead of insisting we're always right because we're the adult. It may involve revealing feelings of pain to a loved one whose words or actions have triggered a healing opportunity, rather than falling into resentment and gossip. It might mean acknowledging our own shadows, fears, apprehensions, and doubts, instead of glossing over them with false positive affirmations, the things we say to avoid admitting the undesirable inner thoughts we're afraid to face. The more willing you are to be vulnerable and confront both the shadows and powers within you, the more trust will grow and flourish. I have been privileged to witness, encourage, cheer on, and guide individuals back to the truth that they were indeed perfectly created. Whether I'm spending time with a dear friend, chatting with a stranger in the grocery line, or working one-on-one with a client, a loving, compassionate presence flows through me when I am open to allowing it. This presence is the God inside. It recognizes itself in others and has, for as long as I can remember, offered me profound insights into the dynamics of human life. This God inside has consistently reminded me of the divine nature inherent in all things, including people who still believe they are somehow less than holy expressions of Source. I've had the honor of helping others see that their life is unfolding within the same perfect system in which they were created, whether they realize it or not. I help them understand that the perceived enemy within, that voice that belittles, judges, rejects, criticizes, and analyzes, is simply a conditioned catalytic story, asking to be heard so it can foster growth and expansion. This voice does not need to be agreed with or validated, only acknowledged. By doing so, it guides each of us through this stage of evolution, the part where we abandon the desire to transcend our humanness by eliminating the undesirable, and instead choose to embrace the entirety of the self to embody our eternal nature. I love reminding people that they are the ones they've been waiting for, their own cheerleader, comforter, and champion through life's growing pains. Those critical inner voices represent aspects of themselves or the collective consciousness that needs to be heard, seen, loved, appreciated, and integrated. They are not the totality of who we are, but rather parts of this dynamic physical experience that long for a witness to honor and receive them. Each of us has the power to offer that presence, to be the unconditionally loving and accepting witness. The truth of what we each came here to embody is found within, and is constantly making itself known through our feelings, thoughts, preferences, desires, talents, and passions. I feel deeply connected and inspired witnessing moments of clarity in others, the joy in someone's eyes when they open up to the infinite potential the God inside offers. Sometimes I hold someone in a loving embrace as repressed emotions finally rise to the surface, ready to be witnessed and expressed. At other times, I simply offer a warm smile and a blessing of reassurance that everything will be okay. I help soul companions trust that this process is not a turning away from God outside of themselves, but rather an alignment with the reality that God is all there is, the conscious energy that creates, animates, and sustains everything. It has been such a blessing to hold space for this process. Yet it is only sustainable if the individual takes up the reins of their own transformation. We must become our own cheerleaders and champions, the fan who never misses a game, the supporter who never wavers, the player that trusts themselves, the coach, the equipment, and their natural talents and gifts. Even when they fall short of a desired outcome, they must cultivate the inner voice that says, "You did your best. Everything is working out for your greatest good. I am here for you. You are welcome here. I appreciate you. You are worthy of all the rest, time, space, and understanding you need. Feel free to vent, cry, root, or dislike the outcome or process. There is an endless capacity for it all. You are never too much for Source." That one really hits home for a lot of people too. A lot of us who feel like we are not good enough first believed that we were too much, and too much became not good enough. I know it might seem counterintuitive, but if you really feel into it, you might begin to notice how those two things are intertwined in your sense of self. And so when we're going through this self-exploration process, we have an opportunity to reveal these correlations. At one point, we might have had too much energy and too much enthusiasm for life, too many questions, too much excitement, too much curiosity, too much emotional content, too many emotions being expressed, too loud, too fast, too slow. Think about it. And that turned into an identity of not good enough, not worthy, because we were being conditioned. So love felt conditional, acceptance felt conditional, belonging felt conditional, appreciation was conditional. And if you really want to get into blaming who did this to you, you have to start to wonder who did that to them and who did that to them and how far back do we take it? Because this has been the society, this has been the culture, this has been the social conditioning, and all of it has driven us back within. If you're listening to this content and contemplating on these topics, then you are familiar with the inner inquiry, the self-discovery process that accompanies self-realization. And that's the gift. That's the gift of separation, is that we turn within to reclaim and reconnect and recalibrate into the energy of oneness. And it's a really precious process. And it doesn't mean that you don't reach out and connect with other people. I think that's one of the main misconceptions why so many of us in this process of inner discovery, inner contemplation, go into these isolated hermit modes. Because, one, it is true that you need time to be with yourself without external catalysts. But two, when all of it's said and done, we're doing all of that to co-create, collaborate, cooperate, and connect. So at some point, the process becomes, can I be connected to myself while connecting with others? Can I maintain my center when I'm interacting in the world outside of me? Do I stay oriented within my inner landscape when I am intermingling my energy with others? And if not, can I accept that? Can I accept that this is the next phase of this evolutionary process of practicing and discerning how to manage a deep, centered, grounded connection with my inner reality while also engaging deeply and compassionately with my outer reality? How do those things blend together? Just a side note. And back to the chapter. I have been able to support and witness others because I learned how to do this for myself. Initially, my gifts of empathy and compassion manifested as codependency and insecurity. As I matured beyond trying to rescue others from their hardships or attune myself to their vibrations just to feel loved and accepted, I began to develop the fortitude to stand in my own power and presence with confidence, while remaining open and receptive to others. I replaced codependency with the ability to be a respectful witness or companion. I learned that confidence could grow without diminishing humility and kindness. I vividly remember the moment I realized I harbored a belief that expressing confidence would make me insensitive. It was after a weekend workshop with one of my mentors. During lunch, a fellow student, a bold, sandy-haired massage therapist from Charleston, South Carolina, called me out. "You are just being fake. Why?" she asked bluntly in front of a dozen other participants. I flushed with embarrassment, laughed awkwardly to stifle the tears welling up behind my eyes. "What do you mean?" I asked. She explained she had noticed how my voice and demeanor would change depending on who I was speaking with. "You should either stop or figure out why you do it," she said. Her directness left me rattled. At the time, I was in my late 20s, and this senior woman had just thrown me way out of my comfort zone. I was used to elders being passive aggressive or talking about me behind my back, so her forward approach was new territory, and I didn't want to venture into it, to be honest. Later that day, we were paired up for an exercise, and I felt absolute dread as I approached her. "Listen," she said in her same abrupt tone, "you can spend your whole life trying to be what everyone else wants you to be, or you can be yourself no matter what anybody wants from you. The earlier you get that, the better. I was like you when I was younger. Learn from me. Be yourself now." Her delivery ensured her words etched themselves into my memory. For years, I reflected on what she said, and I eventually came to see her as a catalyst, even an angel, sent to push me toward growth. She wanted to spare me the years she had spent trying to please and accommodate everyone around her, only to fail. For that, I was deeply grateful. Her example helped me grow into someone who could lead by example. It wasn't by striving for spiritual perfection, but by embracing my unique and imperfect individuality, that I bridged the gap between reluctant observer of life and devoted authentic participant. Is it easy? No, but it can be fun. It requires commitment, effort, and allowing. Shifting lifelong disempowering patterns is a challenge shared by everyone who has achieved a balanced and fulfilled expression. Everyone. Perhaps the reality you are experiencing now isn't easy either. It may be filled with hardship, disconnection, isolation, a lack of passion or purpose, or a persistent sense of restlessness and longing. Like me, you may feel dependent on others' experiences or opinions of you, like I was back then. Or perhaps you sense something is off or missing, but don't know what it is or how to find balance. Don't worry, you're progressing wonderfully. Taking an interest in yourself is one of the best gifts you can give yourself. Go within and embrace everything you discover. Invest in yourself. Choose to trust again. Trust yourself and your ability to rise to the challenges you face to grow. Trust that you are or will be drawn to the necessary components that resonate with you and fully support you. You are worth it. Trust that everything arising within you is moving you forward and creating space for higher states of consciousness. Trust that you were created the way that you are for a divine reason and are not meant to be a servant to others' demands. Trust the time and space you need to integrate these new understandings, epiphanies, and transformations. And believe that when you require the answer, it will come. Not before you need it, but when it serves you best. That is trust. Things are always showing up to help us grow, trust, and leap into the new. Right now, in every moment, infinite intelligence is sending each of us guidance in the form of signs, clues, support, encouragement, challenges, confrontations, stillness, reassurance, and opportunities to create clarity about what we truly want, need, and deserve. These reminders reveal your true nature in countless ways. If you're not receiving what you want, trust that you are getting what you need. Even when Spirit brings you what you don't want, you gain more clarity about what you do want and can affirm that truth in each moment. It also gives you the opportunity to practice grace and humility in the face of adversity, a priceless asset for living a peaceful and inclusive life. What you don't want might just be exactly what you need right now. Embrace it all. Those undesired experiences serve a purpose. They help you access the parts of yourself that you reject, ignore, or bottle up. They offer you chances to cultivate resilience, compassion, and grace. Did someone criticize you? Wonderful. Now you have an opportunity to be present with feelings of righteousness, vengefulness, disempowerment, rejection, or inferiority, creating space for acceptance, tolerance, confidence, and discernment to grow. Perhaps you respond to the insult with loving blessings for the one who said it, understanding that those who attempt to hurt others are often in the most pain. Maybe you offer love and comfort to yourself as a reminder of your own true divine nature. Or perhaps you simply respond with a silent, go fuck yourself. Regardless of your inner response, the situation becomes an opportunity to celebrate your capacity for love, your respect for yourself, or your willingness to acknowledge the pain within. It's all welcome. Once you embrace the array of responses that arise from within you, you can consciously choose how you wish to behave in your interactions with others. You do not need to project your pain onto anyone else. Doing so only perpetuates our collective disconnection and separation. Instead, you can soothe the parts of yourself that are hurting while cultivating the strength to hold these aspects of self without reacting to others. This is the power of embodied self-worth. When you value yourself so wholly and completely, no one can take away your inner power to act in harmony with your highest ethics. True power is expressed not through reactivity, but through being grounded in an authentic presence. As you feel and experience your shadows, you gain the ability to respond authentically to triggers and challenges without the weight of unresolved emotional content. While you are developing this approach, you are also strengthening a vibration of allowing, a state closely aligned with receiving and appreciation. For example, you might respond to a person's insult by thinking, that person just spoke to me in a disrespectful way. I'm not going to try to one-up them. Instead, I'll affirm to the infinite that I prefer to be treated with kindness and spoken to respectfully. Thank you for this moment of clarity. I feel centered in my experience. If their input is helpful or insightful, I'll consider it, regardless of the delivery. If it's a projection, I'll share compassion for myself, the person, and the situation, so that we can all grow and evolve into our highest and best expression. May all beings be blessed with all the love and joy their hearts desire. Doesn't that feel wonderful? And one additional little side note is that this is not a practice of perfectionism. We really have to be honest with ourselves. When we do choose the silent, spoken only in our minds, go fuck yourself. And then we berate ourselves for not being more spiritual. We have the opportunity to stop and accept that there's a part of ourselves that wants to reject that person's behavior. And we don't have to perpetuate and compound the rejection by rejecting the part of us that wants to reject them. Do you see how that fits together? Then we go, okay, all right, I hear you. I hear that you were offended by that. I hear that you want to reject that person's input and distance yourself from their contribution to your experience right now. And I'm going to love you through that. I'm going to appreciate that that's the way that you feel protected, and you try and gain a little bit of power back in this moment. If you can consider and see yourself as all of these different aspects of self kind of traveling through life together on one big tour bus, then you can allow all of those parts of yourself to be on the bus. They don't have to be the driver, they don't have to be the tour guide either, but they can be one of the participants, because we say unkind things to ourselves all the time, don't we? We judge ourselves for not doing more, or saying too much, or not following through on commitments that we've made, or making so many commitments that we burn out. Eventually it will spill out into the world, and it will be something that is projected towards us, reflected to us from our outside environment, from people outside of ourselves. But the practice becomes being inclusive with it all, where you can acknowledge that that person has a bus full of aspects too. And that if you can't be accepting of them and all of their aspects, then you can focus on being that way with yourself. And in this way, we become more whole in the way that we are perceiving ourselves, because we're already whole. But if we're not interacting with ourselves that way, then this is part of the process of getting back into that orientation point, back into that perspective and that perception of reality and ourselves in this reality. I've really enjoyed sharing this chapter with you, and I look forward to doing the reflection next. Okay, so we're going to slide right into the chapter 23 workbook and reflection process. Chapter 23, entitled Trust, is one of my major life themes. So if this resonates with you, then we might be two peas in a pod. In one of the later chapters, I talk about how I took my relationship with trust and this deep transformative energy that I have been working with my entire life around trust into a sacred ayahuasca ceremony, and the expansion that happened as a result of that prayer and intention. And I'm very excited for you to um, be able to receive that sharing. So the reflection for this chapter is: trust is not blind belief, and it is not an externalized quality, which I think a lot of us start with trust, like trusting people, trusting everything outside of ourselves. Trust is a cyclical relationship. It flows from within, and then it is mirrored to us in the external, and then we reclaim it and refine it within ourselves and recalibrate to a more aligned tone of trust, and so on and so forth. Trust is not blind belief, it is cultivated relationship. It is the slow rebuilding of intimacy with yourself after moments of doubt. It is the willingness to act without guarantees. It is the quiet decision to soften instead of brace. Trust evolves. At first, it may feel conditional, dependent on outcomes, reassurances, or evidence. Over time, it matures into something deeper, a steady knowing that even when you do not understand what is happening, life is not happening against you. Trust is less about certainty and more about alignment. It is the bridge between fear and surrender, and every moment offers you the opportunity to strengthen it. The journal prompts for this chapter are: 1. My current definition of trust is, and remember to see how trust is being expressed in your life? Is it externalized? Is it internalized? Are you having a hard time trusting yourself, but you have a deep level of trust for your partner, for example? Or you have a hard time trusting that you have a job in 3 weeks, or that you have a job, but you don't trust that you're going to be able to cover your expenses because everything is getting more and more and more expensive. Like, really look into, how do I trust in these areas of my life? Career, relationship with self, relationship with others, relationship with the divine, with the planet, with the government, with the school that you go to. Like, really fill in the blanks. And then the follow-up question for that one is, how has this changed throughout my life? Because, like we said, it's evolving. Number two, when trust has been broken by myself or another, I tend to respond by fill in the blank. And a really awesome exercise around this is to think about when you have had an intuition about something that you rationalized your way out of, and then you experienced why that intuition was accurate that you didn't follow. What do you do? How do you navigate that reflection? Are you really hard on yourself? Do you berate yourself? Is it a game that we play? Oh, I should have remembered. Oh, shoot, I forgot. I rationalized what was most logical, what was most efficient. That's one of the things I do a lot. Whatever is the most efficient is where I will tend to, except for after doing this practice. Now I'm like, it may not be the most efficient approach, but I'm going to follow my inner guidance and see what surprises are being laid in front of me, what I don't know about, why efficiency may not always be the most beneficial determining factor on my decision making. So that is really, really fun and juicy to get into after a while. It can be playful instead of disappointing. I think in the beginning for the most of us it's pretty disappointing. Like, oh, I should have followed my intuition, but I didn't, and now I'm like really upset with myself about that, and gosh darn it, I know better. That's one thing I hear people say a lot. I should have known better. Well, I mean, that remains to be seen, but it is a belief that is getting strengthened every time you say it. So perhaps a different approach might be more nourishing. And we can love that part of ourselves that thinks that we're supposed to be perfect and get everything right all the time. We can soothe it. We can comfort that part of ourselves and not make it the one that's driving the bus. Journal prompt number 3. A time I trusted my intuition and it guided me well was, and the follow-up question to that is, what did that experience teach me? Number 4, if I fully trusted that everything unfolding was for my growth, I would. And number 5, the biggest fear that blocks my trust is, and a follow-up question to that one, what would compassion toward that fear look like? And the part of me that has that fear, that holds that fear. The exercise for this chapter is called the Trust and Release Practice. First, you find a quiet place, like so many of these practices, and sit comfortably. Place both feet on the floor. Close your eyes. Take a deep inhale through your nose and imagine drawing in support. Whatever your version of support is, imagine you're drawing it into your body, into your beingness, into your awareness. Exhale slowly and imagine releasing control, releasing the need to manipulate, work an angle, figure something out ahead of time so that you can maneuver it in the way that you want it to go. Now bring your mind to one area of your life where you are gripping tightly, trying to manage, predict, maneuver, and secure an outcome. Ask gently, What would it feel like to soften here, to allow, to release, to open up? On your next inhale, imagine yourself supported, fully secure, and completely held. And then on your exhale, whisper internally, I trust myself. I trust the process. I trust that I will respond wisely to whatever unfolds. And then just allow yourself to sit for a few minutes in that supported awareness. Notice the difference between force and trust, the difference between manipulating and allowing, the difference between predicting and observing. And then you can contemplate the quote from this chapter, which is, trust is not about knowing what will happen. It is about knowing that whatever happens, you will meet it. And that concludes this chapter's reflection and workbook content. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, contribute to the conversation, express yourself here in this safe space. And until we meet again, be well and enjoy the now.